Hi, welcome back to episode 2 of Let's Be Real. I thought for today's episode we'll just sit and talk because I asked you guys a few questions on Instagram about vitiligo, confidence, insecurities. And honestly, I haven't done a long format video, so I just wanted to answer them very, very honestly. And this is very new to me, so let's try and see how this turns out. When did you first notice your vitiligo and what was your immediate reaction? Honestly, I don't think I ever noticed my vitiligo because I think I was 3 or 4 when the first spots of vitiligo were visible under my eyes, and I was a kid then. Also, I had seen my parents have it, like my mom has it, my dad has it, my brother has it, and I was too young to realize that something is happening to my body. It was more like I was just born with it. So I don't think there was a moment of shock, it was just always there. I do remember while growing up, it kept changing. So I started noticing then, like the patterns. I would see in between there was a heart on my cheek. So I would notice that. I would notice the patterns of the brown and white combination skin. But I have never noticed like the first patch of vitiligo, and there was never a reaction to it. How did your understanding of vitiligo evolve over time? Um, I think as a kid, I had so many questions. I was always very curious, and there was a lot of confusion too. But I remember asking all of these questions only and only to my mom. Or I think I've annoyed her with all of my questions because um, while growing, my mom was like completely white since the start. Like, since the time I've seen her, she's completely white. So I used to ask her, how did you get completely white? Did you take any medicine? Or what's the next step for me? What is going to happen to my skin? Like a lot of questions. What is this called? Who all in the family have it? And I don't know. I was just very curious, and all of these questions didn't come um, out of like being irritated by the fact that I have vitiligo. It was always just curiosity, like pure curiosity about what is this. Like, as a kid, you see something and you are so curious. You don't make judgments about it. So I think all of these questions came from that mindset, but it was always just my mom who I used to ask these questions. But now with age, I think when I started googling more about vitiligo, when I started understanding what is it, what happens to the body, how is it autoimmune, how much percentage of people in the world have it, all of these questions, when I started googling it and I found answers, I became more mature. And I also think with time you just grow into it. But while growing up, the confusion and the curiosity was very real. I think we'll have to have a conversation about this with my mom because she's the one person I think who will know. Uh, Even I don't remember what kind of questions I've asked her, but I do remember that, I had questions for her. So we'll bring her on the podcast and we'll ask her specifically what were the kind of questions she had to deal with when I was young. What was the hardest moment for you in the early days? As much as I want to forget those moments, I don't know. I have them very deeply ingrained in my brain and heart. No matter how confident I get, no matter how far I go, no matter how much I grow, I think those moments will always stay with me. It was name calling. Kids my age when I was young would call me cow or Oreo. But I clearly remember it because that was one particular thing which hurt me the most. I don't think I was bullied. I wouldn't say it was bully, but even like banter, it was very common to comment on skin color, comment on height, comment on weight. So people used to comment, like the kids used to call me, oh, there's a cow there, oh, you look like Oreo. And I was definitely very hurt because of it. But I think when I look back now, I feel I was very brave in dealing with all of these things, all of these comments, because I don't remember coming home crying about it. I just decided to handle it myself. This is around the time when I was in like first grade, second grade, that time this used to happen. But yes, I think that was very tough, and it was tough because I don't know for what reason I took it upon myself to handle it, and I never told anyone or you know took help or anything. Like I never complained about it to my teachers or my parents or anything. I just handle it myself. So I think that was why it was tougher for me. And but yeah, this is still like I can still picturize it very clearly. People calling me that. I don't know those people anymore. I don't know where they are, but I remember the scenario. Did you ever try to hide it? What did that phase look like? Honestly, I don't think I ever consciously tried to hide it, because the major reason is I was completely and totally okay with my brown skin tone. Like I never had a problem with it. I didn't want to turn fair or white. Like that was never the case. I was okay when the skin was brown. I was okay when the skin was white. So I don't think I tried to hide it, but I do remember wearing fuller clothes. I don't know if that was the trend that time or it was my style, but I always felt more comfortable wearing full clothes. But I don't think it was necessarily because of it Lego. It was just I think my style. Did you feel supported, or were there things people said that hurt you? I've actually been very, very lucky with my circle. I've always been tight with people around me, like my friends. There are people, I've always had good set of friends. So I think they've always supported me, and not once my close friends have made me feel otherwise or made me feel different. I really cannot ever remember people who know me personally would treat me different. Like it just has never happened. Like I would not even make up stories because that was never the case for me, and I think I've been very, very, very lucky in that scenario. And I remember when I grow like while growing up, the teachers were also very supportive. Like I don't think any teacher has ever questioned me or asked me. They were always, they've always treated me just like any other kid. And of course, I had support from my family, because I think the support from my family that was there since the beginning is like very unseen. And I don't know, there's no track of how much support I've gotten from my family. Uh, that kind of shielded me from everything else. Like that, because of that I didn't feel the necessity to go outside and seek support from anybody else. I was just like very content. And what's the most insensitive comment you've received? Oh, I remember this so clearly, so clearly. I had gone for my college interview, and after the whole conversation, this person asks me, um, at the end, to wear full sleeves at college because other students would get uncomfortable. And this person is not like somebody young. This is like a mid-aged man who has asked me what's my ambition, why I want to get into the college, what's going to happen, this and that, where I'm coming from, all of everything. And the conclusion of his conversation was everything else is good, but please start wearing full sleeves, because I remember I wasn't wearing full sleeves when I went for the interview. And it shook me so bad that people still think this way. Like people are very conscious about what he was very conscious about how other students will feel. He clearly said that other students will be uncomfortable. He didn't think twice before saying that. So it wasn't even like long ago. I think it was 6-7 years back. But that moment has stayed with me, just like the comments when people made when I was a kid. So I think I this will always stay with me. I always tell people how this was my first interaction when I was going to get into college. Have you faced discrimination or uncomfortable situations in public? I wouldn't say discrimination, but uncomfortable moments 100%. There's always this feeling, like till now, there's always this feeling that someone might come up to me and say, this is how you can fix this, or you should go here and take this treatment, or what is up with you. I don't know. There's always that hesitation or that feeling that I have that people are going to come up to me, and especially with kids, because they're very curious, of course, and they're very naive, so they just want to know. So I've had so many kids in my life come up to me, touch my skin, and see what is it, because they could see two colors, so they would literally touch my skin and ask me what is this. And I don't know, for some reason a lot of parents have told them that she got burnt or something like that, and I had to explain to the kids that, how um, make up stories like God has made me different and this is a special power that I've gotten and all of that. Because what do you tell kids, like, what is this, what is the skin condition? So I think especially around kids I'm a little hesitant. I think it puts you in a very awkward spot. And of course there's always unsolicited advice, cures and treatments that you never ask for. So not discrimination, but these things definitely makes anybody uncomfortable. If I ask you about, it's not just about vitiligo, I feel, if people come to somebody who's, a little on the healthy side, and they come and they give you, you should exercise, you should yoga, you should do this. I think that person is already, aware, and they have made a choice of doing or not doing whatever they want to. So giving them advice would just make them awkward. Like, nobody wants to, say it on your face that, okay, just shut up about it. Nobody will say that to you. So anybody who gets this kind of advice or unwanted opinions, just like, they are uncomfortable, they feel uncomfortable. What has your experience been with marriage conversations? I think I got lucky here again, because when that phase of marriage came into my life, I already had my person. I wouldn't deny that I have heard conversations that marriage would be difficult for her, who's going to marry her, this and that. Not from close relatives, but from people, from acquaintances. I've heard kind of these kind of things. But I was like, but at the age when I was didn't care about those things. So when I was in the age to get married, I had my person. And I think by now you must have seen previous episodes, so you know that I was very direct with Shubh about these questions. That there will be questions and there will be opinions about vitiligo when we decide to when we decide to marry each other. Like, are you okay with it? And there will be stares, there will be opinions, there will be a lot of things. Are you okay with dealing with it? And I made it very clear. We had a very direct conversation about this, and he was very, very, very confident about answering. And he's been very clear and confident about it, which actually makes all the difference. So, has vitiligo ever impacted your professional life or opportunities? I have been into rooms where appearance was a problem earlier, not now, 100% not now, but earlier, yes. I've been into rooms where I think I wouldn't say I was rejected, but I was not accepted because there was somebody with an even skin tone. Like, I would definitely say that. There was always this unspoken bias, I feel. Even I remember this in school, although my school has been like a big, big support, but I think I don't know where it came from or who it came from, but I think also in school, I remember this one time where we had to get photo shoot done. Like, some students were selected to get the photo shoot done for billboards and magazines and everything, like for the offline marketing purposes. But and I was one of the favorite kids at school. I wouldn't lie, everybody loved me. I was one of the favorites. I was very confident that I'll be one of them, but I wasn't. Now, I don't know if this was the reason why they didn't take me in one of those pictures, but I think my vitiligo was the reason why I wasn't a part of those billboard pictures. So I think there was always, nobody said it out loud, but there was always this unspoken bias. And somewhere I've reached a point in my life where I do not want opportunities which require to hide parts of me. So earlier, maybe yes, but now I don't think. What helped you truly accept yourself? I get this question a lot of times, but I don't think there was a big moment or there was a big turn or there was something, an event that led me here. I think it was a lot of small moments which you are going to listen about in this podcast, my whole journey, the small little things, small little events, incidents from my husband, my best friend, my family, my brother. Like all of them have different stories because all of them have experienced different parts of me. For example, my parents have seen my childhood. My best friend has seen me in early school days. My boyfriend has seen me in the my peak teenage years. So there were a lot of incidents for sure. I don't remember all of them, but people around me do. That's the purpose. That's why I want them to have these conversations with me, so that even I can remember how it was like for them to grow up with me, and for you guys to know what incidents, what small moments led me to where I am today, and how confident I am today, what happened, all of those things. So I don't think there was a big moment, there was a lot of small moments. And also, growing up, understanding myself, doing my own research has helped me a lot. I always say this, please do your research, please, because it helps you understand what is going on in your body, what is going with your body. I've also had this privilege of connecting with people who connected me to other people who knew about vitiligo. I've had a lot of sessions with people in the US, people in the UK, different parts of the world, their understanding of vitiligo, their cultural, I think I've now come to a point where I know a lot about vitiligo. So I think this has what has led me here. So there wasn't one. And most importantly, I don't think I ever wanted to fix this. It was always a part of me, and actually a part of me. I made sure that I know that this is a part of me and not the whole of me. So that was just it. Like that was just there. That acceptance just had to be there. That's it for this video. I think what I've truly learned is insecurities don't just disappear. You learn how to live with them without letting them control you. Uh, and I think that is very, very important. If you have more questions, please write them in the comments and I'll answer them in the next video. See you.